Thanks for tuning in to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. This week, we are daring to trek on the bridge to hell. Maybe you think as a collective we're fully in hell mode right now. Is Earth the hell realm, as some believe, or is hell only a concoction of our minds? What do near-death experiencers have to say about hell? What religions besides Christianity preach about hell? Is the message the same or different? And most important for those little sizzlers out there like myself, how do we avoid hell altogether? Let's get into it. Let's begin with a little Hell 101, or for the tender ears in the audience, HE double hockey sticks, other words that reference the bad place, the nether regions, the abyss, inferno, perdition, purgatory, land of the dead, the infernal regions, abode of the damned, and eternal damnation. Oxford Dictionary defines hell as, quote, a place regarded in various religions as a spiritual realm of evil and suffering, often traditionally depicted as a place of perpetual fire beneath the earth where the wicked are punished after death. Wondering what the origins of the term hell are? The Old English hell, H-E-L, belongs to a family of Germanic words meaning to cover or to conceal. Hel is also the name in Old Norse of the Scandinavian queen of the underworld. Many English translations of the Bible use hell as an English equivalent of the Hebrew terms Sheol and Gehinnom or Gehenna. The term hell is also used for the Greek Hades and Tartarus, which have markedly different connotations. As this confusion of terms suggests, the idea of hell has a complex history, reflecting changing attitudes towards death in general, and judgment, sin and salvation, and crime and punishment. The concept of hell exists across the globe. It's an idea that has persisted for thousands of years. From Native American tribes, some Mesoamerican cultures, like the Aztecs, had a complicated concept of the afterlife, including an underworld called Mictlan, where those who died normally resided. This was not necessarily a place of punishment like a traditional hell, but rather a place of rest, described as boring. So boring is a kind of hell for some people. But the duality of heaven and hell isn't something you usually find in native cultures. The concept of hell has a place in Judaism, and though it takes on different forms in Eastern religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Jainism, and Zoroastrianism, here are others from ancient times. Mesopotamian civilizations from the 3rd to the 1st millennium BC produced a rich literature dealing with death and hell, much of it meant to make the living keenly aware of how fragile life is, to be grateful for the cosmic order that provided vitality and fertility. In Mesopotamian traditions, hell is described as a distant land of no return, a house of dust where the dead dwell without a distinction of rank or merit, and a sealed fortress, most often guarded with 7 gates that kept people inside from leaving while keeping others out. In a cycle of Sumerian and Akkadian poems, the god king Gilgamesh, despairing over the death of his companion Enkidu, travels to the world's end, crosses the ocean of death, and endures great trials only to learn that mortality is an incurable condition. According to the Gilgamesh epic, hell is a house of darkness where the dead, quote, drink dirt and eat stone. Okay, I feel like I went to an all-you-can-eat buffet like that once in Virginia on a school trip. The tombs, pyramids, and necropolises of ancient Egypt stand as proof of their enduring and borderline obsession with death and the afterlife. As the mortuary cult of Osiris developed across Egypt, both royalty and common people wanted to endeavor to survive death, which meant society at large was focused on the underworld. Texts such as the Book of the Dead, the Book of Amduat, and the Book of Gates describe the perilous journey through the 12 zones of the underworld in great detail. Those 12 zones, they're corresponded to the 12 hours of the night. The books describe the judgment they'd face at the hands of Osiris, which was harrowing to say the least. The dead needed both magical and moral power in order for Osiris to forgive them of their shortcomings. In order to, let's say, nudge their case in the right direction with Osiris, many called for their bodies to be mummified. They made preparations to have elaborate tombs built that were adorned with prayers and offerings inside. And in some cases, the deceased were equipped with spells, amulets, and testaments pleading their innocence, all of which was planned and provided in hopes the dead would win safe passage and guarantee the success of their divine tribunals. Those who succeeded won immortality thanks to Osiris, or in some cases, the sun. Those who failed were devoured by a crocodile-headed monster, tormented by demons, or worse. But there is rarely the suggestion of eternal condemnation. The tomb remained a place where the dead could be comforted or appeased by the living, and the mortuary texts were a constant reminder of the need to prepare for the final passage. In archaic Greece, Hades is an underworld god, death personified, whose realm was kept separate from the land of the living thanks to a treacherous river. The house of Hades is a labyrinth of dark, cold, and joyless halls, surrounded by locked gates and guarded by the hellhound Cerberus. Hell's queen, Persephone, resides there as a prisoner. This somber picture is confirmed by Homer's Odyssey, when Odysseus visits Hades to consult the seer Tiresias in Book 11. He finds its inhabitants sunk into a witless oblivion, incapable of communicating with him until they drink from his libation of ram's blood. Oh my God, that sounds awful. Those that died too soon or were not buried properly suffered worse than most, and notorious sinners like Tantalus and Sisyphus are tormented for their crimes. So yeah, Hades' realm was unpleasant for everyone. It was just different gradations of awful. By the late archaic period, Greek traditions changed, offering more paths in the afterlife in general. Throughout the classical and Hellenistic periods, Mediterranean societies had many teachings, basic theologies about what to do during death and the afterlife that had become more let's say, infernalized, exploring hellish dimensions as a way to exploit the idea of morals. While Odysseus travels no farther than the entrance to the underworld, Virgil, the Roman author of the Aeneid, sends Aeneas through Sibyl's cave by the shores of the foul-smelling lake of Averno, across the river Styx on Charon's ferry, past the three-headed dog, and from there down the labyrinth path as it forks right to the tortured fields of Tartarus and to the left to the Elysian fields of the blessed. Virgil's hell includes special compartments for infants and suicides, and specific punishments for specific specific crimes, but the ordinary dead, who merit neither a hero's reward nor a scoundrel's punishment, remain unaccounted for. Further attention to the structure of hell came during the first centuries of the Common Era. Now, this rising tide of thinking about death and what happens after death was influenced heavily by Western Asia, and it swept through the Roman world. Turning to Iran and Zoroastrianism, in the middle of the second millennium BC, a priestly sacrificial religion arose among people who migrated to the Iranian plateau. That religion stated that the world is one incessant struggle between the Ahuras, which is gods of light, purity, and order, and the Devas, the demons of darkness, pollution, and disorder. This dualist cosmology provided the foundation for Zoroastrianism, the prophetic religion of Zoroaster, which proclaimed the coming triumph of Ahura Mazda, which is also known as the Wise Lord, and his angelic retinue over Ahriman, which is the destructive spirit, prince of the powers of evil. Zoroastrian end-time accounts describe the coming of one or more cosmic saviors, the resurrection of the dead, a final passage through rivers of molten metal in purgatory, and a resounding defeat of all the demonic powers. The Zoroastrian hell is presided over by Yima, the first victim of death, and is home to all that is evil, dark, corrupt, cold, and hostile to life. That passage came straight from their Travelocity reviews, apparently. I'm just kidding. During the interval between death and resurrection, there is a preliminary judgment in which the dead have their deeds weighed in a balance. Does that sound familiar? Because the Egyptians were known to balance the heart, right? At the time of judgment, though, the dead confront their conscience in personified form on a symbolic bridge, from which they fall into hell to be tortured, pass to heaven for blissful reward, or they enter a limbo-like realm of the mixed, which is reserved for those of neutral merit. In the influential 9th century Apocalypse, Artaxerxes, an Iranian priest, takes a visionary tour of these otherworldly realms and returns with a harrowing report. The torments of hell, even if not eternal, are dreadful enough to have a powerful deterrent effect. In the Hebrew Bible, Sheol is a place of darkness, silence, and dust to which the spirit or vital principle descends at death. It is likened to a vast house whose entrance is guarded like family burial sites by gates and iron bolts, to a prison in which the dead are held captive by strong cords, to an insatiable beast with spreading jaws, and also to a watery abyss. Once in Sheol, the dead are cut off from their living kin and from cultic relationship to God. Yet God retains his sovereignty over Sheol, searching out the evildoers who hide in its depths, preserving or delivering the just from Sheol's grasp, and ultimately, as later apocalyptic and rabbinic texts make explicit, restoring the dead to life. At least in the post-exilic portions of the Hebrew Bible, those are written after the Babylonian captivity time, death does not hold the same fate for all. The unjust, the improperly buried, and the untimely dead endure the misery of Sheol. But for those who die in God's favor, the natural bitterness of death is mitigated by reunion with their ancestors. Late prophetic books concerned with the vindication of God's justice warn of a coming day of the Lord in which the wicked will be burned up like stubble, the corpses of God's enemies will suffer endless corruption, and evildoers who have died will be resurrected to shame and everlasting contempt. while the just enjoy the fulfillment of God's promises. In some post-biblical Jewish writings, Gehenna, the incineration ground where children had once been sacrificed to the god Moloch, emerges as a realm of post-mortem punishment, more like hell than Sheol. In Gehenna, the unjust dead would suffer a fiery torment of duration and severity proportionate to their crimes. During the period from the Maccabee Wars to the compilation of the Mishnah, writers increasingly speculated about the afterlife, producing apocalypses that featured dramatic visionary journeys through heaven and hell. The first book of Enoch, which is a very important collection of revelations that some people have said does not belong in the Bible, so it's not there, describes in vivid detail both the eternal abyss of fire where fallen angels will be imprisoned after the final battle, and the plague and pain to be visited upon wretched souls. At the same time, Jewish philosophers and mystics emphasize the spiritual character of the future life, interpreting Gehenna as a redemptive fire, which burns away the soul's impurities in order to restore its original perfection. So perfection, like a cleansing by fire, I guess. A spiritualized conception of the soul's journey after death flourished alongside the rabbinic doctrine of resurrection and judgment at the end of time, and the two models were often combined. The focus of traditional Jewish theory, now as in the past, is on the Messianic age, when the world will be remade into a dwelling place fit for the divine presence. To forfeit one's share in the world to come is the greatest of all calamities, to which hellfire, whether physical or spiritual, pales in comparison. Early Christians proclaimed that Christ had conquered death, opening the door to resurrection and heavenly immortality. The defeat of death does not necessarily mean the immediate abolition of hell, however. Gehenna appears in the New Testament 12 times, where its terrors for the wicked as a place, quote, where the worm never dies and their fire is never quenched, end quote, from Mark 9:48, are stressed. In the great discourse of Matthew 25, Jesus announces that the Son of Man will come in glory to judge the nations, to separate the sheep from the goats, and to consign sinners to everlasting fire. This separation is stark, with no explicit provision made for fine gradations of merit or guilt. While the poor man Lazarus enjoys a blissful repose in the bosom of Abraham, the rich man who failed to help him in life is tormented in eternal fire without hope of respite, the two realms being separated by a great chasm. The standard of judgment is your correct relationship to Christ as expressed by deeds of mercy. Jesus himself set this standard when he declared, "You that are accursed, depart from me into that eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. Naked, you did not give me clothing. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." Ambiguities exist in the New Testament about hell, and they've led to significant disagreement among Christians. Are sinners and fallen angels tortured forever, or only for a fixed amount of time? Are the pains of hell reserved for the last judgment, or do they supervene immediately upon dying? To what extent has Satan been left in charge of his kingdom, and is he free to work his woe? Theological reflection on hell is intimately connected to conceptions of the nature and moral psychology of human beings in general, in particular to their status as free beings free will beings, created in the image and likeness of God. The extent of their corruption by the fall, and by that they mean the fall of humanity from innocence to sinfulness as a result of the sin of Adam and Eve, and the particular weight attached to specific sins and evil dispositions, and the efficacy of the various means of reconciliation to God. The physical location of hell is similarly ambiguous. Some ancient and medieval Christian texts describe places of post-mortem torment and demonic mischief in the upper atmosphere, while others locate hell in the center of the earth, finding entrances in caves, moors, bogs, and volcanic fissures. Such entrances to hell appear frequently in folk traditions, along with lore about the fairy underworld in which the unwary may be trapped. Let's take a look at Islamic traditions when it comes to hell. According to Islamic thought, the existence of hell bears witness to God's sovereignty, His justice and mercy, and also stands as a warning to individuals and nations of the definitive choice to be made between fidelity and infidelity, righteousness and inequity, and life and death. So that duality, right? The major Islamic schools agree that it is essential to one's identity as a Muslim to believe in and look forward to the day, or more pointedly, the hour when God will bring His creation to an end, raise the dead, reunite them with their souls, judge them one by one, and commit each individual as he deserves to the joys of the garden paradise, or the terrors of the fires of hell. Symbols reminiscent of Egyptian, Zoroastrian, Jewish, and Christian judgment scenes recur in Islamic accounts, in particular the record of deeds, the weighing of the soul, and the test bridge, which widens for the righteous but narrows to a knife's edge for sinners who lose their footing and plunge into the flames below. According to Islamic teaching, God exercises complete authority over the course of events. He has predetermined human destiny, yet justly holds individuals accountable for their choices in life. Immune to special pleading, God, in His mercy, reserves the power to save those whom He wills, and looks favorably upon those for whom the Prophet Muhammad intercedes. He created hell with its 7 ordered gates for a deep purpose, but has fixed a limit to the suffering of believers who have sinned. For unbelievers who refuse to acknowledge their Creator, there is no hope or final redemption from the fire. The Quran has very little to say about the interval between death and resurrection, but later Islamic literature makes the deathbed and the grave the setting of a preliminary judgment. The soul of the pious Muslim, it is held, will experience an easy death and a pleasant sojourn in the grave. The infidel soul, violently torn from the body and failing interrogation by the angels Munkar and Nakir, will suffer torment in the grave until the day when it will take up its place in hell, there to dine on bitter fruit and pus, and to be roasted and boiled with all the usual infernal devices for as long as God sees fit. Like the joys of heaven, the pains of hell are profoundly physical and spiritual. The worst of all torments is that estrangement from God. In the middle of the 2nd millennium BC, Indo-European people migrated into northwestern India, bringing with them a religion influenced by that of ancient Iran. According to the great texts of this tradition, the Vedas, the proper performance of sacrifices establishes right relations with the cosmos, enabling one to prosper in life and to join one's ancestors in the sky in death. The ritually unprepared, and in later accounts the ignorant and morally unworthy, face the grim prospect of near extinction or descent into a dark, cold underworld. In China, the confluence of Buddhist, Taoist, and folk traditions produced an elaborate ceremonial system for relieving the suffering of hungry ghosts and hell beings and exorcising their negative influence on the living out. Hell, with its 10 fearsome courts, is a bureaucracy where judges are amenable to bribes and souls undergo trials and endure judicial tortures. The deceased are supported by their living kin, who remember them with honor, performing good deeds, sponsoring rituals in their name, and burning or decorating the grave with paper effigies of money, food, clothing, cars, and other essentials. Esoteric rites for opening the gates of hell and feeding the hungry ghosts and hell beings extend this filial compassion from the family to the whole population of suffering beings. Purgatorial in nature, Chinese hells are not beyond the reach of human intervention, and the shared obligation to help those beings who suffer there has been a powerful force for social cohesion. After a quick break, let's bring the conversation a little bit closer to home. What do people that survived a near-death experience have to say about hell? Back in a minute.
Hi, I'm Derek Condit with Mystical Wares. I've recently published 2 books. The first is titled Shungite Unveiled. It's an FAQ and hidden insights to the miraculous mineral called shungite and how it can be used to help save the bees. It also contains chapters on shungite and healing, shungite in plants, the Shungite Grid Project, as well as ways to use shungite with animals and in construction. So it's a large FAQ or accumulation of ways to use shungite in everyday life. Then the second book I released is called Everyday Magic, and it's inspirational stories of intuition and awakening. So it's a collection of 18 short stories that I put together that can help to explain some of the metaphysical aspects of our reality that we're all experiencing. Either of these books are available at mysticalwares.com or Amazon. There's also additional information on how to help save the bees with our Shungite Beehive project. That also can be found at mysticalwares.com, and we appreciate your support.
Welcome back. I personally don't have any concrete experience in hell or heaven, but I turn to those that died and experienced something they later described as hell. Near-death experiencers died and lived to tell about it. AI pulled together data to define these NDEs this way. While NDEs are often described as positive and peaceful, some people report negative, even hellish experiences. These hellish NDEs can involve encountering dark places, negative beings, and sensations of fear, pain, and isolation. While less common than positive NDEs, they are not rare, and individuals may hesitate to share these experiences due to the potential for judgment. Okay, on a recent Josh Gates show, I learned that they found out the cause of spontaneous human combustion. Put simply, it's being overweight, falling asleep while next to a source of fire, and wearing semi-flammable clothing. People burn like candles, apparently, but instead of wax, the fire feeds on fat. It's gross. It's done a lot to help me take my healthcare to the next level lately. I don't want to have candle fuel. That was a long way to say that those NDE reports about hell, they have the same effect on me. Be good. Avoid the bad place. I don't want to burn in hell either. Here's a few more details about those hellish near-death experiences. Some are dark and fearful. Those experiences often involve a sense of falling into darkness, encountering negative forces, and feeling immense fear or panic. Some individuals report feeling a profound sense of separation from God, loved ones, or even themselves. That isolating feeling is its own awful hell. Some speak of pain and suffering. While not always physical pain, these experiences can involve a sense of anguish, torment, or emotional suffering. Some individuals report encountering negative beings beings, ones that are not benevolent or compassionate, sometimes described as demonic. There are life review variations. While life reviews are common in those positive NDEs, negative NDEs can involve a painful review of past actions, leading to a sense of remorse or regret. After suffering these hellish experiences, NDEers have varied responses. Some have psychological responses. Some experts believe that these experiences may be a product of the brain's response to extreme trauma or to the effects of a dying brain. For individuals with religious beliefs, these experiences may be interpreted as a glimpse of hell or a spiritual warning, basically to quote the great Nat King Cole, straighten up and fly right. Some individuals believe that these experiences constitute real encounters with a spiritual realm, regardless of whether it is positive or negative. Having a negative NDE takes a toll on those survivors. The impacts can include PTSD-like symptoms, similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, such as intrusive thoughts, nightmares, and difficulty adjusting to their life after the experience. Despite the fear and suffering, some individuals report experiencing a positive transformation in their lives after that hellish NDE that lead them to change their values, their priorities, or their religious belief. One final fun fact on these NDEs and hell, Cora says 15% of all NDEs involve an experience with hell. Okay, this is a place, if it truly exists, that I want to avoid. Life on earth has been hard enough, right? I don't want to be stuck in some dark, godless, hellish realm. Is there a way to avoid going to hell? The best I could find was a thoughtful post by Peter Sherman. I put links to his website in the show notes, so give it a read as you like. Here's some of what he shared. I've been to too many funerals lately, and I've been thinking about death and heaven. I recently preached a sermon on Revelation 21, the vision of the new heaven and the new earth that has given Christians hope for millennia. The problem is we also have 2,000 years of other cultural images of heaven and the afterlife that don't quite line up with the Bible's picture. So we have to tease these things apart. In the end, some might feel like they have missed something pretty significant about the Bible's end times. Let me start with this. Ultimately, we must say there is much mystery in all this talk of the afterlife. No one has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. On that note, I must also say that this blog is on heaven and not hell. Hell can wait, one mystery at a time. My cues of the Bible as seen through a contemporary Reformed lens. If you look up our contemporary testimony in the Christian Reformed Church, which is his background, called Our World Belongs to God, you will see it has a final section on the end of time that's not called heaven, but rather the new creation. There it says, we will take our place in the new creation, and we will reign on earth, and everyone will see our world belongs to God. What is that new creation? Well, let us start with death and heaven. British agnostic writer Julian Barnes, in his book on death entitled Nothing to be Frightened of, published in 2008, opens with this line, I don't believe in God, but I miss him. He says with some regret that the dreams of heaven have been traded for the tempting images of multinational corporations trying to sell us stuff like kitchen appliances, flashy cars, high-status jobs, and the development of our exhausted personalities. Consumerism has become our true and only heaven. Barnes says much of this is just a distraction. We carry death within us, he writes. Though that takes a bit of getting used to, it's very hard for us to think there's nothing special about me dying, that there is no plan to it. All civilizations throughout human history have had some notion of the afterlife, whether it's Hindu reincarnation, Buddhist emptiness, Muslim paradise, traditional religions, ghostly ancestors, or even Marvel Comics' Endgame. It seems that the afterlife is bred in the bones for most human beings. Most sense there must be more, even a purposeful plan of some kind. We all have a mythology on this. We all hold it in our heads. I don't mean lies. I mean stories we tell ourselves about how things all began and how they will end. Stories that give meaning to our lives. Some stories appear more sophisticated or plausible than others, but don't be fooled. They are all mythologies. They are all human stories. The question is, do you have a good story, and does it inspire you to do good? And when he says do good, do whatever your heart tells you to do that might make your square patch of the world a little better. We have ample opportunities right now to comfort other people. In a single day, I had 2 chances come about. They were tiny interactions that I knew I had to lean into, so I did. In one, at a neighborhood recycle center, an older man parked beside me. As I was busy flattening my cardboard out, I noticed his hat, which identified him as a veteran. I said, "Thank you for serving," which I always do when I see someone in a hat like that, and his eyes got watery. "You don't know how much I needed that. Thank you," he said. I was just shocked that he had such an emotional reaction. He was hurting. And I said, "You are the backbone of our country. Thank you." We hugged for a long time, and we ended the interaction as friends. His name is Walter, and I told him I'll be looking for him at the recycle center next time. The second incident happened after I did a hike. I was in a drive-through Starbucks line, which wasn't moving at all. Behind the store dumpster, sitting on the concrete, was a Starbucks employee, and she was crying her face off. 2 coworkers were trying to give her comfort. I put my car in park and left my vehicle in the middle of the line. I asked her. I was bawling too, and I didn't even realize it till I got back in my car. I asked her, "Do you need a hug?" And she stood up and held on to me for a long time. "I don't know what you're going through, but you matter," I told her. "You are important, and I am sorry for what you're going through." We hugged again, and she said she felt much better. She said, "Oh wow, I don't even know how that made me feel this much better that fast." You probably already do secret good, don't you? People are hurting, and if we see their pain and offer comfort, any comfort, that is important. I'm not saying do this to avoid hell, but do this to help someone out of a hellish moment. That's the best we can do right now. All right, before I close, I've got to ask, are there places where the veil to hell is thin? I want a list so I can completely avoid them. I went on the internet, and here's what I found. Called Portals to Hell, the articles seem to repeat that there's no proven sites, that there are true portals to hell, but some spots have shady, spooky reputations. Here are a few. The Darvaza gas crater, which is in Turkmenistan. This burning crater, also known as the door to hell, it's a massive sinkhole where natural gas has been burning for decades. The Soviets initially set it alight to prevent the gas from escaping, and it has since become a tourist attraction for its eerie and otherworldly appearance. Mount Hekla in Iceland. This active volcano has long been associated with the Netherlands due to its fiery eruptions and the belief that it is a gateway to hell. Candelaria Caves in Guatemala. These caves, located near the city of Candelaria, thus their name, are known for their unique rock formations and the stories of strange occurrences that have occurred within them. Hillam Township, Pennsylvania. This small township is the subject of a local urban legend about the 7 gates of hell, which supposedly lead to the devil's doorstep. The Masaya volcano in Nicaragua. This volcano, part of the first national park in Nicaragua, has long been known as the mouth of hell due to its active eruptions and the presence of a large lava lake. St. Patrick's Purgatory in Ireland. This is a cave near the village of Duleek, believed to be the location where St. Patrick experienced a vision of purgatory. Fengdu city of ghosts in China. This place is located in Qigong and is where the Chinese think the devil lives. Because he resides here, then evil souls come here to die. In the streets of this city, you'll find many carved statues of demons and ghosts, but the most breathtaking scenery you'll see is the Ghost King, which is over 450 feet tall and is carved into a rock face. The Plutonian in Turkey. If you've always wanted to visit Turkey, then you can check this destination off your list while observing a portal to hell. The Plutonian, or Pluto's Gate, is an ancient Greco-Roman temple, and underneath it is a cave. The cave emanates toxic vapors, which ancient priests used to inhale for religious purposes. The people of Hierapolis believe this temple was a site to enter the underworld. Chinoike Jigoku in Japan. Chinoike Jigoku translates to bloody hell pond. It's so named because this hot spring is tinged red from the iron oxide in the water. The bloody hue is enough to put you off. But what's even worse is what this hot spring was previously used for. Prisoners used to be tortured and boiled to death here. That plus the carved statues of demons may be enough to put you off of visiting the place. Lua o Milu, Hawaii. If you visited Hawaii's Waipio Valley, a paradise of waterfalls and black sand beaches surrounded by cliffs, it's doubtful you would think, oh yeah, this must be a gate to hell. However, according to ancient Hawaiian folklore, Waipio is the access point to Lua o Milu, or the land of the dead. As the story goes, the souls of the deceased leaped from the tall sea cliffs to enter an underworld ruled by the death god Milu. As for the precise location of this hellgate, you won't find it on Google Maps. The portal is now allegedly hidden by black sand. And finally, Stoll Cemetery, Stoll, Kansas. One of Earth's many gateways to hell purportedly lies in a tiny Kansas town of Stoll. Since the 1970s, rumors have swirled that the local cemetery is one of the world's 7 gates to hell. Witnesses insist that every year on Halloween, Satan opens a portal among the tombstones. Some swear that they have seen an endless staircase leading down into a pit of flames. In 2002, the adjacent stone church was mysteriously knocked down, resulting in even more gossip of the devil's doings in Stoll. Thanks for listening to Curious Cat. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.